New footage of Stefon Diggs with the Commanders is going viral just days after he signed with the team. Cameras caught him working with Jaden Daniels and getting comfortable with his new teammates. But one part of his first appearance has fans talking more than anything else. Let me break it down. Let's start with the moment itself. Reports broke that the star receiver had signed with the Washington Commanders on a $12 million one-year deal. Within hours, a video of Diggs mentioning the team went viral. In that clip, Diggs is standing on a practice field, and he's not being coy about how he feels. He tells the camera he's at his first fall practice, that the guys are out there getting it in. Then he shouts out his Terps and closes with a "Go Commanders" and a "Let's go" that fans immediately started replaying. That energy set the tone for everything that followed. The Commanders formally announced that they have signed W.R. Stefon Diggs to a one-year contract. Stefon Diggs is a member of the Washington Commanders. The veteran receiver passed his physical and then signed his one-year contract. Washington formally announced the acquisition on Friday morning. The move wasn't small news for a team quietly reshaping its receiver room. The Commanders released guard Tyler Cooper in a corresponding move to make roster room for him. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't Diggs settling for whatever came his way. Adam Schefter reported that the Chiefs, Dolphins, and Raiders had all reached out to Stefon Diggs. He turned them down. After turning down interest from 3 other NFL teams, Diggs headed home and joined a Commanders team that believes it can return to contention. That's not a guy taking a paycheck. That's a guy who wanted one very specific address, and the footage backs that up. When Diggs actually got on the field, cameras were rolling for every second of it. The Commanders highlighted Diggs' debut on their social media pages Friday morning, posting images of him in his new jersey and video of him walking to the practice field as training camp opened. The team also streamed portions of practice online. That's the raw footage everyone's been passing around. The walk, the number reveal, the first rep with the new offense. Speaking of the number, after officially signing his contract, Stefon Diggs made his first on-field appearance with the Washington Commanders during Friday's practice, wearing a new jersey number. Diggs was seen wearing number 18 with his new team. Fans zoomed in on that jersey the second the images dropped. It's worth noting it will be Diggs' 4th different jersey number in the NFL. He wore number 14 for his first 9 seasons between the Vikings, and Bills switched to number 1 with the Texans and used number 8 last season with the Patriots. 18 is new territory, and it instantly became part of the viral wave. Highlight reels edited together, showing every number he've worn, capped off with the fresh burgundy 18. Now, the video that really got people buzzing wasn't just Diggs alone. It was Diggs next to Jaden Daniels. Cameras caught him running real routes with Washington's franchise quarterback almost immediately. After signing his contract Thursday, Diggs practiced Friday, taking a handful of snaps in full team work and spending time with receivers coach Bobby Ingram going over routes. Following practice, Diggs worked with quarterback Jaden Daniels, first jogging through routes and catching passes. That's the pairing every Commanders fan wanted to see with their own eyes, and now they had it on video in real time on day one. Terry McLaurin was right there too, and the chemistry between the two receivers is exactly what made the footage spread as fast as it did. Diggs provides McLaurin with the most accomplished receiver he has played alongside since Washington drafted him in 2019. The only receiver McLaurin has played with who surpassed 1,000 yards in any year of his career is Deebo Samuel, who did so 4 years before they were Commanders teammates. Watching those two run side-by-side routes on the same field was, for a lot of fans, the actual selling point of the whole signing. And then there's the deal itself, which added fuel to why this footage mattered so much. Diggs' one-year deal with Washington is worth more than $10 million and up to $12 million, according to Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, for a team that had been starved for a threat at their number 2 wide receiver spot opposite McLaurin early on in training camp. This wasn't just any free agent walking onto the practice field. It was the guy meant to fix that hole, caught on camera doing it for the first time. By the time the sun went down that Friday, timelines were flooded. Footage of Diggs jogging out in his new gear, clips of him pulling in passes from Daniels, screenshots of the jersey, number, and that early clip of him shouting out to the fans. It was a lot of footage, fast, and it all pointed toward one thing. Stefon Diggs in Washington on the field for real. To understand why this particular signing produced so much footage and so much noise, you have to understand what Washington means to Diggs specifically. This wasn't a random landing spot. Diggs grew up in suburban Washington and played college football at Maryland. ESPN's John Keim put it plainly, writing that Diggs, who was born in suburban Washington and played collegiately at Maryland, had made his desire to play for the Commanders known. That backstory is why the footage of his arrival hit differently than a typical free agent signing. He's a Gaithersburg kid, a Maryland Terp. When a hometown kid signs with the hometown team, after over a decade grinding through the league, cameras find every excuse to follow him around, and fans eat up every second of it. He didn't just quietly report to the facility either. Before the ink was even dry, Diggs visited Maryland's first fall practice, and the university shared a video message from the former Terrapin star on Instagram. That's the kind of footage that gets clipped and reposted 100 times. A guy who spent years bouncing between NFL cities showing up at his old college campus before he even puts on his new team's jersey. The path that got him here matters too. Diggs was released by the New England Patriots before free agency kicked in March, and Washington had been starved for a threat at their number 2 wide receiver spot opposite McLaurin. But that role is now filled by Diggs, a longtime number 1 option himself. He arrived with numbers that speak for themselves. His 4-season streak of having 100-plus catches from 2020 to 2023 is tied for the second longest such streak in NFL history. And Diggs has never been shy about where he ranks himself among the league's receivers. In a video posted to his own YouTube channel before the move, he made his case directly, saying everybody got a 1. Opportunities aside, people might say there's 7 real 1 seconds. In my opinion, I can compete with anybody, but take those as your 1s. You can't name a number 2 better than me. That kind of talk, paired with footage of him actually running with a genuine franchise quarterback for the first time in years, is exactly the combination that makes a clip travel. His numbers back some of that confidence up. Last season in New England, Diggs was good. A year removed from a torn ACL, he caught 82.5% of his targets, the best reception rate of any NFL wide receiver. He has 942 career catches for 11,504 yards and 74 touchdowns, ranking 24th in catches, 38th in receiving yards, and 43rd in receiving touchdowns on the NFL's all-time list. That's not a fading player. That's a proven veteran, walking into a receiving room that badly needed one. The reporting around his decision confirms just how deliberate the whole thing was. According to Nikki Jabala of The Athletic, the Commanders gave Diggs a 1-year deal that could be worth up to $12 million with incentives. Not bad for a 4-time Pro Bowler who went over 1,000 receiving yards with the Patriots last time around. Analysts framed it as close to a no-lose scenario for both sides. It confirms 2 things. Diggs is on good WR2 money, but WR2 money all the same, with McLaurin remaining the top dog while Diggs arguably becomes the best running mate the number 1 option in Washington has ever had. There's also a quieter storyline behind the footage, what he was walking away from and what almost happened instead. Diggs was free to sign with any NFL team, and multiple league insiders reported that at least 3 teams had already expressed interest, though he'd been released by the Patriots earlier in the year under the league's personal conduct policy pending a trial's outcome. That restriction had lifted. Suddenly, it wasn't just Washington circling. It was several franchises, and Diggs chose the one closest to where he grew up. By the time he actually arrived at the practice facility, all of that history was baked into every second of footage that came out of Ashburn. It wasn't just a receiver joining a team. It was a homecoming captured on camera, and fans who knew the backstory understood exactly why it felt bigger than a typical roster move. Once Diggs actually stepped onto the practice field, the footage shifted from he signed to how is he being received, and that's where things got layered. Because not every reaction was pure celebration. The most talked about clip of the week didn't come from a highlight reel. It came from an interview Commanders guard Sam Cosmi, when asked about his new teammate Stefon Diggs, said, "I wouldn't let him date my sister." That line spread instantly, not because it was mean-spirited, but because of exactly what it was referencing. Cosmi's teasing line hails back to a near-decade-old video of Diggs' then Vikings teammates naming him as the player they would least want to date their sister in. An informal survey, Diggs was the runaway favorite within Minnesota's locker room, and at the time he defended himself, saying he's a great guy, that people just didn't know him well enough. A brand new Commanders teammate resurrecting that clip with a straight face years later in a completely different city is exactly the kind of layered joke that makes footage travel twice as fast. Other reactions painted a fuller picture of how the locker room actually feels about him. Diggs called Daniels a superstar, said Terry McLaurin is a like mind who plays with his level of passion, and even complimented rookie Antonio Williams, saying he can hoop. Notable because young players usually only get mentioned by number, not name, this early in camp. That's Diggs talking about his new teammates. But it went both ways. Head coach Dan Quinn weighed in, too, and his comments carried weight because they came from someone who studied Diggs from the opposing sideline for years. Quinn said he'd played against Diggs a ton and had seen the quality game film, but he learned this week about Diggs' willingness to lead and assist and set high standards clear on day one with extra time spent with Daniels, McLaurin, and so many of the young Commanders players on both sides of the ball. Diggs himself summed up his own approach at the podium, saying, "I always try to push the guys around me to be the best version of themselves." McLaurin's own words added another layer to the footage cycle. Diggs spoke about him directly to reporters, saying, "I've seen Scary Terry for a long time. He's one hell of a playmaker. You see him on the highlights popping up on the screen on ESPN," before adding that he admired McLaurin's intensity and passion because it mirrored his own. That's a third named voice in this story, distinct from Cosmi's teasing and separate from Quinn's coaching perspective, a fellow star receiver on record welcoming him in. And Diggs made sure to speak to what the move meant personally in comments that ran alongside the practice footage. He told reporters, "It's home. My family's here. My support system is here. You know, I love everything about home and the organization. They take care of their players. They got a great young quarterback. I'm familiar with young quarterbacks. That combination, a hometown kid's genuine emotion, a teammate's inside joke referencing his reputation, and a head coach publicly vouching for his leadership, is why the footage kept circulating for days instead of fading after the first news cycle." Quinn wasn't alone in noticing something different about how Diggs carried himself on day one. It might have only been a small sample size, but it was enough to prove that Diggs was a different caliber of player, both in terms of his production and leadership. One team report on the day noted, the eye test lined up with the resume, and cameras were there to capture every bit of it. The extra route work with Daniels after practice ended, the sideline conversations with McLaurin, the podium session that ran 13 minutes, 46 seconds, an unusually long, detailed introduction for a receiver who'd only been with the team for a single day. Diggs closed his first availability with a blunt assessment of where he thinks the league's receiver rankings actually stand, telling reporters after practice that a solidified WR2 room now gives Washington a group defenses need to take seriously heading into the season. That combination of confidence, humility toward his new teammates, and the internet's fixation on the "date my sister" callback made this stretch of footage some of the most discussed training camp content of the entire week. No conversation about Diggs walking into a new locker room is complete without addressing why some of the jokes and side eyes existed in the first place. Because while the on-field footage was largely positive, plenty of the internet chatter tied back to his personal history, and it's worth laying out exactly what that history is, since it shaped so much of the reaction. Diggs was recently found not guilty of a felony strangulation charge and misdemeanor assault and battery charge, stemming from an alleged dispute with his former private chef back in December. The case had followed him through an entire NFL season, an arraignment, and eventually a trial. The chef, identified in court documents as Jamila Adams, had accused him of slapping her and placing her in a headlock during an argument over unpaid wages. She told the court Diggs offered her money to retract the charges, and his personal assistant allegedly asked her to sign a non-disclosure form. The trial itself produced its own viral moments. During cross-examination, Diggs' defense attorney asked Adams if it was true that her lawyer had demanded a multi-million-dollar sum from Diggs, and Adams responded that Diggs had offered her money to recant her statement, a comment the judge immediately told jurors to disregard. The judge went further, warning Adams directly that her testimony could be stricken if she continued to, as the judge put it, interject her own narrative. In the end, the jury sided with Diggs. A jury in Dedham District Court found him not guilty of felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery, with deliberation lasting approximately 90 minutes. Outside the courthouse, his attorney didn't hold back, telling reporters that professional athletes need to stop being targeted by people trying to extract money from them, adding that the ordeal does a disservice to real victims of domestic violence. Diggs' agent released a brief statement afterward, calling it a win for the truth. That verdict is what cleared the runway for this signing to even happen. Once the personal conduct policy restriction that had been hanging over him lifted, the market moved fast, multiple teams circling within the same news cycle as the acquittal. It's also part of why some of his new teammates approached him with humor rather than pure reverence. The Chef case sat alongside older public storylines, including his high-profile relationship with Cardi B. During his brief stint with the Patriots, Diggs was in a high-profile on-and-off relationship with rapper Cardi B, with whom he shares a son. None of that stopped him from taking the field, and none of it stopped the footage from being overwhelmingly focused on football once he got there. But it's the backdrop that explains why a joke like Cosme's landed the way it did. Half tease, half acknowledgement that Diggs arrives with a complicated public record, that his new locker room is choosing to look past in favor of what he can do on Sundays. Even outside the courtroom drama, Diggs has had a habit of generating headlines that had nothing to do with routes run or catches made. Off-season footage of him at a gathering with friends made rounds on social media, with some fans questioning his focus heading into a new season, while others defended him for simply enjoying downtime before the grind of training camp. It's a pattern that's followed him for years. Moments of personal life bleeding into football conversations, sometimes fairly, sometimes not. So where does all of this actually leave Diggs and the Commanders as the season approaches? The footage from that first week did its job. It introduced a hometown kid to a fan base that had been asking for exactly this kind of move for months. But introductions are one thing, production is another. The role he's stepping into is clearly defined. Diggs joins Terry McLaurin at the top of the depth chart for Washington, giving him a chance to back up his claim that he is the best number 2 receiver in the NFL. Whether he can put that argument to rest for good will play out over an entire season, not a single practice. What's already clear, though, is that Diggs' signing addresses a real need for the Commanders' offense as they head into their first season with offensive coordinator David Blau. The receiver depth chart behind him tells the story of just how urgent that need was. Outside of McLaurin, the next 3 options on Washington's depth chart entering camp were former first-round pick Treylon Burks, Luke McCaffrey, and rookie Antonio Williams, leaving plenty of room for a player of Diggs' caliber to immediately step into the lineup. That's not a knock on those young players, it's just math. A 12th-year veteran with 4 Pro Bowls doesn't walk into a room like that and stay on the sideline. There's a physical question mark too, and it's one the footage from practice was quietly answering in real time. The Commanders gave him a 1-year prove-it deal worth up to $12 million, and last season in New England, Diggs was really good. A year removed from a torn ACL, he caught 82.5% of his targets, the best reception rate of any NFL wide receiver. Every clip of him cutting sharply off a route, planting off his surgically repaired knee, and coming out of it clean was its own small piece of evidence that he's still got it. There's also the matter of expectations shifting elsewhere around the league. Veteran wide receivers still seeking a new contract had to look elsewhere once word got out that Washington was signing Diggs. A reminder that his decision to come home didn't just shape one roster. It rippled through the rest of the league's receiver market in the middle of camp. As for what he actually brings on the field beyond reputation, the numbers from his final season away from Washington set a real bar. In his 11 years in the NFL, Diggs played for the Vikings, Bills, Texans, and Patriots, totaling 85 catches for 1,013 yards and 4 touchdowns last year, while helping the Patriots reach the Super Bowl. That's the version of Diggs Washington is betting on. not the raw numbers from his absolute peak years, but a proven professional route runner who still produces at a number 1 level even in a number 2 role. The chemistry building blocks are already visible too. Following practice, Diggs worked with quarterback Jaden Daniels, first jogging through routes and catching passes, playing with a young quarterback for the 3rd consecutive year. After being with C.J. Stroud in 2024 and Drake May last season, that pattern matters. Diggs has made a habit out of walking into rooms with ascending young quarterbacks and making an immediate impact. Daniels is the latest, and arguably the most talented name on that list. What happens from here plays out over 16 or 17 weeks, not one viral afternoon in Ashburn. But the footage that spread across the internet this week did exactly what footage like that is supposed to do. It gave a fan base its first real look at what a Diggs-McLaurin-Daniels offense could look like. Jokes about his reputation and all. Whether that translates into the kind of season that validates a homecoming, or just another chapter in a career full of noise on and off the field, is the story that starts writing itself the moment the pads come on for real. For now, the receiver who once got voted the guy nobody wanted dating their sister is back in his home state, wearing number 18, running routes for a quarterback 10 years younger than him, and doing it all in front of cameras that never stopped rolling.